Welcome to the podcast, The Whole and Complete Woman, where we provide practical tips and strategies for achieving your health, wealth, and relationship goals and desires. Yes, I said desires because God does not put desires in our heart just to tease us. So it's important to me that you are empowered with the tools and resources to not only fulfill your goals, but to create a life you love and create a legacy, because the people who come after us, they are depending on us to pave the way. So I congratulate you for being here today. Not only will today's content help your future self, but also those that come behind us. And that looks different for everyone, which I love. So today we have an amazing guest with us, Dr. Erin Ellis. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alicia. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited that you're here as well. So, for the ladies that are listening, have you ever been told that your hormones are out of balance, but no one could explain why? Maybe you've changed your diet, exercise consistently, taken all the supplements, and still don't feel like yourself. Today, we're talking about a completely different way to think about hormone health, one that moves beyond just chasing symptoms and really starts asking your body what it's trying to communicate. So, we're going to talk about hormones. We're going to talk about the early signs of menopause. We're going to talk about if you're doing everything right, but you're still feeling stuck, what to do. And today's guest is Dr. Erin Ellis. She is a naturopathic medical doctor specializing in women's hormone health. Dr. Ellis works with women navigating fatigue, weight changes, irregular cycles, and the often confusing transitions of perimenopause and menopause. Through comprehensive lab testing and a root cause system based approach, she helps women understand the underlying patterns driving their symptoms instead of just masking them. She is especially known for helping women who feel like they've tried everything but still don't feel like themselves. Through her signature method, Rooted and Realigned, Dr. Ellis combines personalized care with education, empowering women to reconnect with their bodies and move forward with clarity and confidence. Dr. Erin, welcome to the Whole and Complete Woman.
Yay. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Excited to have you. So let's go ahead and let's dive into just understanding hormones differently. So many women have heard the phrases hormone imbalance, and you often say hormones are messengers, not the problem. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So they're really, think of your hormones as little signals, kind of like almost like a check engine light. And when you have these symptoms that come up midlife or later on in life, it's your hormones like messaging you like, hey, I'm not operating correctly, or I might be a little bit high, or I might be a little bit low, or it's what I call hormone chaos is something that happens midlife and later on, even in your early 30s, mid to late 30s now. I mean, they used to think it was only in our 40s, but we're seeing some hormonal changes now earlier. So that's catching women off guard because they're like, wait, I feel like I'm too young for this. There's no way I could be in perimenopause. And I mean, your hormones really are a big message in your body and a big symptom indicator that we've got something going on, and just know that you're not crazy.
Yes, yes, yes. Know that you are not crazy. I know for myself, I see that with women as well too. They
Mm-hmm.
come to me and they're like, "Well, my doctor said my labs came back normal, right?" And they feel
Mm-hmm.
crazy like, "Okay, but I know something's going on with
Mm-hmm.
my body." So, what are some of the common messages the body is trying to send women that you often see in your practice that are either ignored or misinterpreted?
Yeah, big ones are mood changes. I just had a conversation today actually with a patient who in her discovery call form was like, well, I'm thinking this is hormonal, but if you think this is really like mental health, like please let me know. But it was mainly her hormones, shifting. So I see a lot of mood instability that oftentimes will be dismissed or brushed, like, oh, I must just be in a bad mood or someone just upset me, whatever the case may be. But deep down inside, that's not your demeanor. You're not an angry person. You normally don't cry at the drop of anything, right? Uh,
Yeah.
Another one is sleep. That is also a hormone issue typically. And if you've all of a sudden been sleeping well most of your life and getting restful sleep and waking up, feeling good, or maybe sleeping throughout the night and now you're waking up multiple times a night, that's another big message like, hey, we've got something going on with the hormones. Another big one would be probably weight. Weight can be all encompassing. We see, weight fluctuations more in midlife than we did, earlier in life. And a lot of women mistake this for like, oh my gosh, I just need my metabolism slow down and I need to work out more and maybe eat less. And that's not always going to be the fix to that problem. So I would say those are probably the top three that I see that are new for women, but also ones that are dismissed by other doctors when they bring them up. I'm sure you hear this
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. Um, Especially when it comes to when you had said about the mood,
Mm-hmm.
all of that. The recently looking at some stats, women between the ages of 40 and 60, that is the highest rate of suicide for
Mm-hmm.
women. And I think it's like a lot of times just from a very young age, we haven't been educated about our hormones, our body, and then spend years and years driving our bodies into the ground, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then we hit this this phase of life, perimenopause, and then really just feel out of control with what's
Mm-hmm.
going on, and often wonder like, is this the way it's going to be for the rest of my life? You know, so
Yep.
it can be very difficult, and it's hard if you are conventionally, with conventional medicine, just brushed off with it or told, well, take an antidepressant, or here's some sleep medication, versus really getting to the root cause and what that does for a woman long term.
That was the exact situation of this patient I just spoke of. She
Mm.
went to her PCP and she went to an endocrinologist. They did labs. They said it was normal and they gave her an antidepressant.
Let's talk a
And
little. Oh, go ahead.
no, I said, well, do you feel better? And she said, well, yeah. Like she was very desperate. Like it got to the point where, I mean, there's a time and a place for medication. Do not get me wrong with that. But no one was investigating the root cause as to why she was feeling like this when there wasn't any sort of life event, right, that would cause her to have her mood affected to the degree that it was. I mean, she was explaining it as, having trouble in her marriage and, it was just she just wasn't in a good place. And, she felt better, but she still doesn't feel herself. And I said,
Yeah.
well, that's probably the hormones. I mean, she's midlife and they had done hormones, and that goes back to the first thing that you said is like, all right, everything looks normal. Well, women's hormones change every single day, and you really need someone that knows how to interpret them for where you are in your menstrual cycle to deem if they are normal or not. And by normal, it does not mean optimal. And I can confidently say in my 9 years of practice, like I haven't seen a normal set of hormones. They don't really exist because of
Yeah.
life, stressors, and toxins, like all of the things. Like every woman has some sort of hormone imbalance, including myself. And then when you hit midlife and beyond, it becomes even worse because we can't control the ovaries. They're in their own little world. So the hormone imbalance has become, harder. I wouldn't say harder to treat. They're easier to treat, but it's, they're 1 minute they're normal, the next minute it's chaos. So it's hard
Yeah.
to say. And I didn't find that to be fair for that patient when nothing was normal because she doesn't feel well. So obviously things aren't normal.
Tell us a little bit about normal labs and like how you had said, like they just ran their regular panel. Tell us about
Mhm.
what's different in conventional medicine and what might be ran if someone goes for a well visit versus if they're doing something more comprehensive. Um,
Yeah, well, I always run labs if you're menstruating on like the last half of your menstrual cycle. So if you understand, and that's part of the problem is women don't even understand what goes on through the menstrual cycle.
yeah.
But the first half of your cycle includes your menstruation phase, and it's the follicular phase, and then you ovulate, and then we have the luteal phase. So if you ovulate, you make progesterone. If you don't ovulate, you don't make progesterone. Now, progesterone is only supposed to be elevated in that last half of the cycle. Typically, its highest peak 7 to 10 days post ovulation. Now, on a regular 28ish day cycle, that would be around cycle day 19, 20, 21. So that's typically where I draw, because that's where I know that progesterone is supposed to be at its peak. We can also see, you know, the relation between the ovaries and what they're doing, and then also the relation between estrogen and progesterone a lot better than if you were to draw it, you know, in the first half of your menstrual cycle when your hormones are relatively low. It's not really going to give me any information because they're
Yeah.
supposed to be low. So let's run them when they're supposed to be high. Now, if you're doing fertility, and you know, there's other times of the cycle that we want to draw, we would draw earlier in the cycle for that too. But for hormone balancing, that's where I recommend. Now, if you're listening and you're like, well, I don't have a period, then we just draw whenever, and we can kind of guess, you know, if say you've had an ablation or maybe a partial hysterectomy and you still have your ovaries, we can kind of guess, like based on your lab levels, like where you are. But that's what conventional medicine misses. They will draw whenever they feel like it. They might draw like in the office. Now, I also don't think that having labs drawn at 2:00 in the afternoon is a good idea, especially when you've lived life. You've had, you know, most of the day, you've probably worked out, you've had stressors. Like your hormones are best represented first thing in the morning. And so that's like the best set of labs is first thing in the morning, fasted on an empty stomach, no exercise, and on cycle day 19, 20, 21 if you are a menstruating woman.
Yes, I love that. I just had my blood drawn yesterday because here and with my clients too. I don't know if you do this too, but I have like a mobile phlebotomist that comes. So
Mm-hmm.
she just comes to my house and then
Yep.
draws my blood this morning, and I'm like a constant like rat lab
Lab
for
rat.
myself. Lab rat. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
Well, did you
For
draw them on the appropriate day?
I did. I was
Good.
looking at FSH and LH, so I did it in the beginning of the month here, and I also did a Dutch on tested my hormones with the Dutch all last month doing cycle mapping. So
Yeah.
looking
Oh,
at it
okay.
nearly every
Yeah.
day with that.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there's other tools too. Like I am using a Mira, which is
Yes.
like they're well known for fertility and irregular cycles, but you can also track for perimenopause, which has been very insightful. And that's just testing a few hormones, LH, FSH, progesterone or metabolite of it, and estradiol, and that's through urine. So, you know, there's many other options to test your hormones
Yes.
via than blood. The reason I choose blood primarily is because I'm not just looking at reproductive hormones. I'm looking at your whole body, because when it comes to hormones and general health, like we can't just look at one area. We've got to look at the whole body.
Yes, yes. I love because I typically run Dutch and then I also run blood work as well too. But I've had a lot of clients recently using Mira and then
Mm-hmm.
Anito as well too. And
Oh, I haven't heard of
then
the other one.
yeah, I have one. She sent me screenshots of it's very similar to um Mira as well too, where you can just like test
Yeah.
daily with the hormones. The thing though, especially because two of my clients are using them right now, but they're both fertility. You've got
Mm-hmm.
to just look at the pattern of
Mm-hmm.
it because
Mm-hmm.
the corpus luteum is going to pulse, but not always at the same time every day. So it can cause these big spikes that you see there on the like the mirror and things like that, and it can make people nervous and all of
Yeah.
that. So you just want to look at how it's trending when you're
The
using those
trends. Yep.
tools, but they're nice because,
Mm-hmm.
running the Dutch, doing cycle mapping, like one time, you can do 3 or 4 cycles on Mira,
Mm-hmm.
cost wise, looking at it there,
Yep.
with that, and then still get so much information in the blood as well, too.
Yeah, for sure.
So I love that. All right. So shifting gears a little bit, um, one of the things that I hear all the time in my practice is I'm eating healthy, I'm exercising, I'm taking the supplements. Why do I still feel terrible? What do you think's often missed, or what are you seeing on your side?
My best advice is no one's connected the dots.
Yeah.
Usually someone's only looking at like one piece of the puzzle and they're saying do this, they're missing something. So that's where the whole body care and like what naturopathic medicine is shines, is looking at the whole body, treat the whole body. because it truly is connected. And when you see it all together, you're like, oh, okay, this makes complete sense. Now,
Yeah.
can I tell you what happened first? No. I was like the chicken before the egg. I don't know, but this is what's happening. So it's very, very important to look at the whole body. And when you are doing all the things and nothing's budging, we're missing something. There's a piece of the puzzle that has yet to be found.
What are some of the biggest root causes that you uncover in your practice that are often missed by conventional medicine?
Top two would be blood sugar dysregulation,
Mm,
specifically insulin resistance. I see that almost every day. Insulin
yeah.
is not a lab level that's tested hardly ever on conventional labs. You get your fasting glucose and your hemoglobin A1C, but that doesn't really tell me a whole lot. Those are usually normal, but most people have this insulin issue. And then I would say cortisol is another one of those crapshoots where it's very rare that I see it normal in women. And I think that's just how women are wired. Like, we're wired in a sympathetic state. We don't know how to rest unless someone
Yeah.
tells you how to rest, right? Or you've hit that rock bottom where your body's like, hey, you need to rest. Like, you need to sleep more, right? Well, we don't want to spend our whole day sleeping, but you
Yeah.
got into that hole. Let's dig you out of it. And that's usually cortisol. But insulin and cortisol, they butt heads. They like to compete against
Mhm.
each other. So there's always some sort of correlation between the two. And those are not often tested. But also too, like, cortisol is tricky because the Dutch is really good at this because they have the cortisol awakening response as part of, most of the Dutch, depending on which
Mhm.
level you do. But I usually always start with just a blood morning cortisol. And then if we're not getting, I mean, it can give me a good idea, but it's not like a complete picture,
Yeah.
because you want to see that 4 point, salivary response and like
Yeah.
how it is over the day. But the morning is usually where I start. And then if we're not getting anywhere, because I can get a lot of information just from the morning, then I'll recommend doing a 4 point just to see like where we are, throughout the day. But I know that that's, AM cortisol isn't always the most accurate, but that's typically where I start. And that, I mean, that in itself, that and insulin can give us so much information
Yes.
regarding hormones and general health that's usually not addressed in conventional medicine.
Yes, I consider the insulin and cortisol, they're like the king and queen of
Yep.
hormones. Yes, and I
Yep.
love that 4-point cortisol testing
Hmm.
with the Dutch. I love it. Um I was talking to someone and because I had said the king and queen, and they brought up a good point that it's not actually our bodies aren't designed to have like where cortisol and insulin are like the dominant driving factors for everything. It's the way that it is, but it's because of so much toxins and our environment, and then
Hmm.
also like the standard American diet, like all
Yep.
of these things that then make them like this is the one, but really they should be like dancing in imbalance with
Yeah.
everybody else,
I was going to
which I
say
was like,
technology, Wi-Fi, all of the
yes,
stimulation we get every single day, that 1000% influences it as well.
yes, yes. Any particular patient stories that's just your favorite of like a patient that came to you and maybe they were chasing symptoms at first and then they stopped and they really started to address the underlying cause?
I could speak about someone I just saw recently, came to me with like perimenopausal 45, bloating, heavy painful periods that were new for her. Um, no trouble really sleeping, but I would say she's one of those types of patients that probably could use some more energy, but also doesn't feel like she's so tired because it's normal for her. And she's been living at, say a 6 out of 10 energy, but
Yeah.
that is like pretty good for her because that's normal for her. But on
Yeah.
labs, nutrient deficient, vitamin D, vitamin B, her cortisol level was low. She had an insane amount of estrogen in comparison to progesterone, which would explain the heavy periods, the bloating, that because estrogen is a bloater and causes you to retain water, whereas the progesterone is more of a, I call a deflator and like a diuretic. So if those aren't balanced, then we're going to have, the bloating and the heavy periods and painful periods, things like that. And then also like testosterone deficiency, which is very common in your 40s as well. And so, but the thing with her is that she had tried things and she was taking supplements and she had done the diets and she's like, I still don't feel better. But nobody had looked at the whole picture. And so
Yeah.
when we put it all together, it was like, oh, okay, this makes complete sense. And then we gave her a few supplements that were actually what her body needs,
Yeah.
not because she read about it on the internet and saying, like, oh, this is going to help with this symptom. So
Yeah.
that's where I challenge everyone to shift their mentality. Like, we are such a take a pill for your ill society. It's like, I have this, I need to take this. No, not always. Like, does your body need that? You might have that symptom, but why do you have that symptom? Let's get to the root cause as to why it's there in the first place. And then we can figure out if maybe that's the right supplement for you, or maybe you need something different.
Yeah. I love that. Because especially a lot of times in the natural world, doing things like you said, a pill for your ill, right? And it's like you can start doing using supplements and herbs and things like that to just chase a symptom.
Yep.
It's like, well, I got this going on, so let me take this since it's natural. But then if you're still not addressing the root cause of the
Hmm.
issue, it's still just a band-aid.
Exactly. Yep. And it's not connecting the dots. It's not getting to the root cause as to what it is.
Yes. So with women that are maybe going through perimenopause, maybe they don't realize
Hmm.
that they're there yet. What are some of the earliest signs that can be seen?
I would say uh, back to like those ones, like the mood changes. I would say changes in your cycle as well. That's another common one where, it might become heavier than it used to be. It might become lighter than it used to be. It might be shorter than it used to be. And by shorter, I mean like it's coming every 23 days instead of every 28 days. Maybe you have a 26-day cycle and then you have a 42-day cycle. Also pay attention to the quality of your sleep. If you're starting to have trouble falling asleep or difficulty staying asleep or not waking as refreshed, that's something that can happen. Libido is a big one that starts to decline. Weight shifting in the midsection. Um, Also, just kind of like lack of motivation. That goes back to the whole mood with anxiety and perhaps sadness and depression. Those would be the big ones.
Now, how do you help women? And this one could even be a little controversial. How do you help them distinguish between um, symptoms that deserve further investigation and then just like normal aging?
Hmm. Symptoms that, so maybe I'm not understanding. Like, give me an example.
So if a woman's, coming in and now she has more, weight around the stomach or she's
Hmm.
tired or there's memory things like, um, do you help distinguish or how do you help distinguish between like, this is just me getting older or like, is this something we need to look into?
Oh, well, I never chalk it up to age. Well, I do. Okay, I take that back. Chalk it up to age because you are aging and your ovaries are slowing down. But that's what hormone replacement therapy is for. We replace the hormones that your body is deficient in, so that are causing these symptoms. And by looking at the whole body, we're going to get to that root cause as to why you have the midsection. Maybe you have the brain fog, the anxiety, like things like that. I never just dismiss it as, oh, that's the way it is. Sorry,
Yeah.
you're getting older. There's nothing you can do. Like, you should be able to be like a young 82-year-old. Like, you should be able to have all the energy to be able to go hike, to, run around with your grandkids and not be in pain and not want to sleep all day. Like, you can thrive midlife and later. It's
Yes.
possible.
And like you said earlier, like a lot of the biggest things that you see are cortisol and insulin,
Hmm.
and a lot of that can show up with issues with weight and fatigue or
Yep.
afternoon crashes, trouble
Yep.
sleeping, like so much connected back to those two, like the king and queen, those
Yep.
hormones there that are impacting the other ones as well too.
Yeah, and diet influences that. I mean, there's, as naturopathic doctors, we get over 150 hours of nutrition, like so much nutrition education, whereas medical doctors, they might get, I think the research is like 15 hours or something. And
And I
in
think
med
that's only at a quarter of schools too.
Yeah,
I
it's not even like all
yeah,
schools.
I
So
think
medical doctors,
75% don't have any nutrition.
it's so no wonder we're in such a, epidemic with obesity. Like we don't know how to eat properly. Nobody teach. I didn't know any of this stuff, and I only learned it in school. But and that's what I educate a lot on is diet and nutrition, and it's a lifestyle. And once you start understanding that, it's like, oh, okay, like that makes complete sense. Like I had no idea because of the way that media portrays food and all the fast food and all of
Yeah.
that. I mean, you can still have healthier fast food, like it's possible, but yeah, I mean, we don't even know how to eat as a society.
Yeah. What are some tips that you would give a woman who's like, okay, I haven't been to school, I'm not a doctor, like I haven't ever taken a nutrition course. Like, where
Mhm.
do I even start with learning how to eat?
Well, I'm sure you've heard this is shop the perimeter of the grocery stores, right? Like stay away from the frozen foods and the middle aisles. Uh I my biggest best advice is on your plate you're looking for protein, fat and fiber. I call it PFF. So that's what you want to have on your plate. You want to have a decent portion of protein. You want to have a healthy fat, whether that's grass-fed butter, maybe avocado, nuts, seeds, something of that sort, some fat, and then a good source of fiber. And your fiber should mainly come from vegetables and beans. Beans are actually the best source of fiber there is, and vegetables. So if you want to, that's simple. You don't need to track anything. You don't need to weigh anything. You don't need to measure anything. Protein, fat, and fiber at every meal. That's going to be the best for your blood sugar. That's going to be the best for your adrenals, your cortisol, and it'll keep you full and you won't have blood sugar crashes, spikes. Like your energy should be stable. It'll fuel your muscles. Like protein is so underrated for women, and women need protein. We need a lot of protein, and we don't like protein. We're not, we're more carnivores. We like not carbivores. We like the carbs. And most of the time we're choosing the carbs because we want the energy. So that goes back to, all right, well, why are you so tired? And why do you want the carbs? So protein, fat, and fiber at every meal. That's where I would start.
Yes, protein, fat, and fiber. I absolutely love that. What I've been doing recently, even for breakfast, I've been doing like a Greek yogurt, a coconut one, and then I put in like all my fiber. So I've got like my flax in there and some hemp and
Mm-hmm.
chia seeds, like all
Mm-hmm.
of that in there. And then like a scoop of um almond butter, but you got to be careful with those calories too.
Yep.
Like it can definitely add up pretty
Yep.
quick with all of that. Very important for breakfast, though. I always say have a savory breakfast. It stabilizes that blood sugar first thing in the morning.
And your
So,
adrenals.
and your adrenals, yes, those stress hormones. Don't stress your
Mm-hmm.
body out. So many women that I work with will, depending on what they need, we may take them through an 8-week weight loss program, and I'm having them eat more with
Mm-hmm.
it. The majority, like 90% of women are like, this is a lot of food,
Mm-hmm.
but they're eating more and they're losing weight because now the body's like, oh, thank you. You're
Mm-hmm.
nourishing me. You're not
Yep.
stressing me out.
I know.
So that is so important. Shifting gears a little bit. Now we talked about perimenopause, but
Mm-hmm.
in those earlier years, and especially in our generation, we were put on birth control a lot. I went on birth control, I think, when I was 16
Mm-hmm.
and stayed on it for many, many, many years. So let's talk about what are some of the common symptoms that women experience after stopping birth control, and then also how can that impact them during perimenopause as well?
Yeah. So big ones are one, your cycle doesn't come back. It depends on how long you've been on it. And it depends on what type of birth control. So if you've been on the pill, that one suppresses your ovarian function. So I had a woman who went off the pill and she never got her period back. And I guess she just assumed she went into menopause. Uh, Sometimes we see gut dysfunction because the pill will create or cause reduced nutrient absorption, or what we call leaky gut. So we have a lot of nutrient deficiencies. You might get your period well, you should get your period back when you stop it. However, it might not be, it might be worse, or it might be the same as when you started the birth control, or before you started the birth control, if you were put on birth control because of crappy periods, which is a very common thing nowadays.
Yes.
And it's not the right thing to do, because that's another band-aid. It's not fixing anything. What else after you come off? Like, I mean, it honestly just depends. I mean, some people will transition off of it just fine, but if you were to go on it, like I said, for symptoms of a bad period, all those things are going to come back.
Yeah, they're just waiting there lurking.
Yeah, this didn't fix anything. I just had this conversation on a social media post yesterday. Someone was like, "Oh, I'm on," or I went to a hormone center and they were pushing the IUD for bleeding.
Mm,
And I said, "Well, can you find out why you have the heavy bleeding? Like, there's a reason why you're bleeding heavy. The IUD is not going to fix it." And she's like, "Oh,
it's
they're sending
mind
me for an
blowing.
ultrasound." I'm like, "Great. First step. Let's figure out what's going on in there."
Yeah, I'm frustrated every day of
Oh
my
yeah,
work.
the stuff I read, and I call people out. I'm not afraid. I'm like,
Yeah.
I just challenge them to think different.
Yes.
Be like, "Have you ever thought about why you might be in so much pain? Like, painful heavy periods are not normal. We've
Yeah.
normalized them. They're not normal."
Yeah. And some women sometimes they'll say, "Well, the only time my cycle is normal is when I'm on the pill." And it's like, "Well, that's not a real cycle. That's not it's not normal. Like you said, suppressing ovarian function and all types
Mhm.
of things." So, it's hard. How can women best prepare their bodies before and after making that transition, like off from the pill? Like if they're like, okay, I've been on this and I was put on it very young, is there anything they can do to prepare to come off from it?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I would make sure you have like a decent multivitamin on board, just to replete some nutrients that it's probably depleted. I would definitely do whatever you can to support your liver, and help your liver metabolize and detox. I would definitely get your hormones tested about 2 or 3 cycles after you stop the pill
Yeah.
or birth control. If you're on one that you didn't get a period, like the IUD, or perhaps the pill, and you were on one that you didn't get a period, or even if you did get a period, it's not a real period, it's fake period. Once you stop it, that first bleed is called a withdrawal bleed. So that's still not a fake, or still not a real period. So you want to have like maybe 1 or 2. And then I would definitely get your hormones tested to see, what's going on. Um, but yeah, those are what I would do right off the bat.
And tell the listeners too about a bit about the withdrawal bleed. Like what is it? Because I can imagine some are listening like, but I'm bleeding. Like, what do you mean it's a fake period?
It's just kind of like getting like a shedding of like built endometrial stuff is like the simplest of terms. It's not a real period. Like your ovaries have definitely not turned on. Now I have seen weirder things
Yeah.
happen. I have seen someone get pregnant like within a week going off the pill. So every body is different. Make sure too, if you're like on the pill for pregnancy protection, you have a backup until you can figure out what in the hell is going on with your ovaries, and you can track, and like, all right, I'm ovulating. So, yeah, I think that answered the question.
Yes, yes, yes. So it's basically like the hormones from the pill cause the
Yes.
endometrial lining to still build up, and then that's what's leaving. But it's not because like you ovulated
No.
and all of that. That's
Same
all
thing with
actually suppressed.
like the IUDs. Like, I have a lot of women that are perimenopausal, and they're on IUDs because they don't want to or they don't want to get pregnant. Totally understandable. And then I'm like, well, you don't need probably this IUD anymore. Like, I think your ovaries are pretty tired. Like, they're not gonna work. And then we take it out, and they have a bleed. And they might bleed a lot because it's just old build up. It's like, oh my God, I got to shed this stuff out. That's why periods are so good. Like, we hate them as
Yeah.
women, but it's like such a cleansing process that we want to have a period, and
Yeah.
they should just be more annoying than anything. And if it's anything more than annoying, there's something going on. It doesn't
Yeah.
need to be anything more than annoying, and like as something that comes once a month. It's just something we have to deal with as women, but they shouldn't be miserable.
Yeah. My periods used to be heavy, They used to be painful. The week leading up, like in my luteal phase, I would get depressed. I would be exhausted, all of that. I don't experience any of that anymore. I actually feel my best during my luteal phase. My follicular phase, I get a little, and I think it's just the way that I'm metabolizing estrogen and,
Mm-hmm.
all the things. But I feel really good during my luteal phase. And then my period comes and I'm like, here you are. It's not heavy, it's not painful, I don't have any cramps.
Good.
But growing up, I would have never thought that was a possibility. I just thought,
Mm-hmm.
PMS and painful periods was a normal part of life. And I think a lot of women, we normalize that as if it's
Yep.
supposed to be this way. And it absolutely does not have to be that way.
Nope.
So, what are some of just a few foundational habits that support hormone health for women, regardless of age or their stage of life?
Stress management. I don't
What are
think I
some
need to
things
say
they can
anything
do?
more.
What are some of your favorite things for women to do to help manage stress?
Walk.
Mm,
Love walking. Very gentle on the body, being out in the sun, being out in nature. I love that for most women. A lot of women, I ask this to every woman that comes in, what do you do to manage your stress? And a lot of them say, oh, I go to the gym. It's not an answer. I don't like that answer because guess what? Working out is a stressor and exercise
yes.
is a stressor on the body, even though it is, healthy, right? So I don't count that as a stress reliever. I ask women all the time, like, if you had no job, no responsibilities, nothing to do, what would you do every single day that would fill your cup? It's like a hobby, right? So whatever that might be, great, do it. A lot of people say travel. Okay, well, you can't travel every single day.
Yeah.
So what would be second best? All right, maybe it's painting, maybe it's drawing, maybe it's reading, maybe it's a puzzle. I don't know. Whatever works for you, find more of that in your life to manage the stress. There's people out there who's like, you have to go outside and ground, you have to go meditate, you have to go journal. That doesn't work for everyone. Find something that works for you and make sure you put it in your daily routine, 10, 15, 20 minutes a day. And I guarantee you're going to start to notice some shifts in your physical state as far as, stress and all of that. I think that is so important for everyone, no matter what stage of life. And just because of the state of our world and everything that we are thrown, that's thrown at us as women, I think it's so important.
Wonderful. I love that. Walking is one of my favorite things. I'm actually going to go for a walk after this podcast here.
Good. I know
Yes.
we're in Arizona. It's been unseasonably or cooler. Like it was a cold front this morning, like less than 70. I'm like, oh, I went for a walk this morning. I couldn't believe it in July. It's unheard of.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I was out the other night and I was like, "Oh, this is cool."
Oh, for July.
Yes, yes. All right, so I've got 4 rapid fire questions for you,
Okay.
okay? All right. So, what's one hormone myth you wish would just disappear?
Hormone myth. I'm going to say birth control fixed my hormones or fixed my
Ooh,
period.
yeah. What's one lab marker you wish more women understood?
Cortisol.
What's one daily habit that offers the biggest return for hormone health?
Walking.
What's one piece of encouragement you'd give to women who's begin to a woman who's beginning to lose hope?
Don't give up.
Mm, yes, yes, yes. Don't give up. Dr. Erin, this has been such an empowering conversation. I would love to talk to you about this today. And having you here, just providing so much wisdom about our bodies and things that I don't even like to call it like alternatives. Like it should be like, this should be like what we are taught. This is the way
Mm-hmm.
to go, to address the root cause of issues.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else can be alternative, or if I get in a car accident, I need, to go the medical route, that type of thing conventionally. In that way, please save my life. But when it comes to perimenopause, period issues, all of those different types of things, looking at the root cause and the work that you're doing is impacting so many women in such an amazing way, changing their lives, their possibly their children's lives, their great grandchildren's lives, because they're being educated by a doctor. Doctor
Mhm.
means teacher,
Mhm.
to really be able to help them have lasting health versus just temporary fixes. So thank you so much for your expertise and the approach
Oh,
that you take with women in addressing hormone issues.
anytime. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, you are so welcome. So, for those of you, oh, before I forget, how do women find you?
Yeah, no, you can find me on my website, hopenaturalhealth.com. I'm very active on Instagram, TikTok, social media at Erin Ellis. I have my own podcast. Dr. Alicia's been on it. Hope Natural Health, the podcast. So yeah, find me on Instagram. I'll say hey.
Yes, yes, yes. So, ladies, reach out to her on Instagram. And for those of you men that are listening, and if you have a woman in your life who needs hormone health, reach out to Dr. Erin. If you've enjoyed today's conversation and you want to hear more interviews like this on health, wealth, relationships, faith, leadership, or living as a whole and complete woman, we'd love to have you as a part of our community. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform, follow the show so that you never miss an episode. And if today's conversation encouraged you, please share it with another woman. One of my greatest hopes for starting this podcast is to create community where women feel seen, supported, and empowered. So every share, like, review, subscription that helps us reach another woman who may need this exact message. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time on The Whole and Complete Woman.